Welcome to the Poisoner's Cabinet. I'm Sinead.
And I'm Nick.
And this is your weekly podcast exploring the lives of the great poisoners, macabre murders, and captivating crimes from across the centuries, and creating curious cocktails inspired by the tales that we tell. And it's episode 224.
Well, hurrah for that.
And we are deep into Spooky Month.
Very much so. Near
It's
the
spooky.
end of Spooky Month.
Nope, no, don't you say that.
No.
Don't you dangle the dream and take it away from me. No. How are you, Nick?
I'm fine.
You very well?
I'm fine.
You good?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
There'll be no more about it.
Indeed not.
Let's get on with this.
It's getting entirely too personal, I feel.
That's between me and my therapist.
Exactly. So none of this.
Oh, good.
Mind your own business.
Wow. All right. Well, thank you for that drink. I suspect I won't be getting another
No,
one.
probably not.
I don't think you
Not
should
if you
have
keep
any
on asking
more.
questions. No, you won't.
Well, they're not personal questions like, do you like me?
Well, good.
Okay, good. I'm never going
I'm
to
just not taking the risk of getting there. One question leads to another, and then who knows what happens.
You were warned about that at school.
Exactly.
It's a gateway question.
Don't answer questions from girls.
That's actually very good advice. Don't. Any poisonings this week? Hmm?
No.
No?
Don't think so.
I think he's lying. Why is he lying to me?
He's been poisoning other girls.
You've been hanging out with that belladonna again, haven't you? Haven't you? Look at me. Good, that's well established. Well, speaking of Nick looking at other poisons when he thinks I'm not looking, but I'm totally looking, and also having weird, twisted friendships, I think it's time for us to thank our delicious Patreon subscribers.
Absolutely. I'm sure they have many a weird and twisted friendship as well.
They should.
This week we must say thank you very much to Miss Holly Ahock,
To Eva Carlson.
to Corvids and Fountain Pens,
Sorry. Sorry. That name just absolutely struck me straight through the heart.
oh, there was a twinge, there was.
Was Corvids and fountain pens. Ooh, I'm so happy. Sorry. To John Knox.
To Amber Worthington,
To Mirren Warsdale.
to Raisa,
And to Sophie Ellen. Thank you, delicious, sexy Patreon subscribers. We've had a lot of fun on Patreon this week, and we will be having a lot of fun on Patreon this month. For 'tis spooky season. Nick and I were away briefly on a special trip to the north
to the north.
with two special guests.
We went north.
We went north. We went north to find mystical things and got lost in some fog. It was incredibly atmospheric.
Very exciting.
It was incredibly spooky. So as a result, we've got a huge bounty of bonus material and episodes coming to you. This week, we did a little group chat with our delightful Emma from Real Life Ghost Stories, as well as Rowanna, expert witness and psychologist, who just basically tells us it's all in your mind. Which was great chat. We talked aliens, we talked murder, we talked scary winds. Very scary wind.
Scary wind.
But also, we have got more bonus content. We also brought you a special spooky story from the fog on the moors. We have some short story readings coming out. We have a very special extra guest episode where I had a chat with the wonderful Adam from Weekly Creep. We talked all things horror, about starting a horror podcast and spooky true crime content. It was a really lovely chat. And we're going to be talking to some more people. There's going to be more short stories coming out, and maybe some other special bonus content, because spooky season means that Sinead goes mad.
Yes, there's an awful lot going on there.
A lot. Nick just lets it happen.
Yeah, exactly. I just get told, I do what I'm told, so don't worry, turn up, and then I just shut up otherwise.
And we also have our Halloween book club coming out on Patreon this weekend, where we are going to be discussing two books, Vampires of El Norte, as well as The Woman in Black, a great occasion where we just dress up, have a little chat on Zoom with the Patreon subscribers who want to join us. So it's a wonderful time to become a Patreon member and support the show if you are able to. Find out more at patreon.com/The Poisoner's Cabinet and get extra content from us every single week. And we have a few little shout outs this week as well. Our first shout out goes to our delightful, the man in the wide brimmed hat.
Hello.
Darling fan of the show, Gail wants to wish you a very happy 8th wedding anniversary today. We love you very much. Happy wedding anniversary.
Many anniversary.
And another shout out from Kevin to our beautiful Patreon, Retro Rosie. Retro Rosie, Kevin wants you to know that you have been his rock over the last 3 months. He has gone through some tough times. You have been together for 22 years. It's always an adventure. And he says, I'm grateful to be on this adventure with you. Thank you for your unwavering support.
Oh, it's lovely.
Delightful.
Lovely.
Another shout out to Anna from Hamburg, I think you're listening to this now because it's your birthday this weekend. And this is a shout out sent in by your wonderful friend, Ilve. She wants you to know how much of a good friend you are. She wanted to shout out to you for your birthday. She knows what a huge fan of the show you are. And we hope you're squealing listening to this right now. Thank you so much for supporting us. Thank you so much for being a fan. Both of you, happy birthday for the 26th of October. Whenever you listen to this, have another happy celebration.
Absolutely. Have a cocktail.
And finally, we have a shout out and a request from our wonderful Christy Moore, who again is a patron of ours, is a long-time listener of the show. She's just asking all of our listeners for some positive thoughts, prayers, whatever you want to send. Her father, Al Moore, is going through something of a medical emergency. It's a very tough time for him, but he's holding on. She is finding this show such a support and a relief, and we're so grateful for her as a listener. Guys, if you can send any positive thoughts you can out into the universe to Christy, to her dad, Al, we wish you a very speedy recovery. We're thinking of you, and we send you all of our love.
Much love.
If anyone does want a shout out on the show, all you have to do is message us. You can message us on Instagram, on Facebook, on Patreon if you're a member, or you can email us. Just send us a request for your shout out. If there's anything that we've missed in the past, you're worried about it, you can send us reminders. We are happy to send out the love to the universe.
Much love to everyone.
Also, to keep you extra spooky, next week's episode is going to come out on the Thursday. For those listening in real time, it will be coming out on Halloween.
My God.
It will come out on the 31st of October 2024.
How exceptionally spooky.
Because we couldn't possibly just go, oh, one day later. No, because we're going to go full spooky. We have a spooky episode planned. We're going to be dressed as pumpkins.
I already am.
Will be covered in pumpkins, basically. You'll be
Yes.
buried under pumpkins.
Yes.
But that's what we're going to do. If anyone has any spooky shout-outs, anything you want us to do for this Halloween episode, please get in touch beforehand. We're going to be doing a lot of extra content over on Patreon to celebrate the season. Well, Nick, are you ready?
Oh, God.
To drink cocktails and talk about poison.
Okay.
Oh, we could drink poison and talk about
If
cocktails.
you now morphed into the Wicked Witch.
I'm a kind of witch. I'm a medium witch.
Right.
I'm not quite wicked, but I'll do things.
That's a threat and a half, isn't it?
Consensually. I'm not that sort of witch. Oh, I've got a bit weird. Sorry, I don't know what's happening there. We could watch some collections of films that I have about grass.
Your Wicked Witch accent is somewhat morphing
It had to sort
into
of...
more accountant.
Sometimes you kind of like, you get into the zone and then I lost the phlegm that was required to keep the thing, and it just went to the nose. There we are. The witch is gone. It's
The
okay.
witch has departed.
Should we go with the first
Well,
one?
I think we probably should.
Okay, hooray, hooray, hooray. It is my story this week, and we can't possibly have a story without a cocktail in hand. As you know, dear listeners, every week we choose a secret ingredient that is inspired by the tale that we tell, and it will flavour our cocktail of the week. Nick, this week's secret spooky ingredient is... Vampires. We have 2 episodes before Halloween, and yes, goddammit, we're going to do this.
On with a vampire.
A vampire.
Right.
What vampires?
Vampires. Multiple
are-
vampires.
No, as many as you like, mate.
Juiced vampires.
Juiced vampires. Now, vampires like a lot of things.
Not a lot of things.
Oh,
I'd
yeah,
say.
actually, you're right.
Actually, quite specific in their requirements.
They are. They're terrified of lots of things. So, with vampires
Yes.
as your ingredient,
Yes.
inspiration,
Yes.
what have you come up with?
Well,
Well,
vampires, they're known for many a thing.
as we've established,
As we've established.
song, dance,
Dance.
carpentry.
Yeah, they love a good count as well.
They do. Sorry. Did anyone else find the Count from Sesame Street sexy? Did you fall in love with him a little bit when you were a kid?
Not really, no.
Well, what's wrong with you? Kind of hot.
Did I find him sexy attractive?
All right, which Sesame Street character did you find attractive? You're taking too long. You know it's Oscar the Grouch.
I do love living in a bin. Who's the most filthy of them all?
Was that a phrase from Sesame Street?
No, it's a phrase from me.
Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Yes.
What?
Who's the filthiest of them all?
Fucking hell.
it's
Oscar the Grouch.
Grouch.
Oscar the Grouch. Oh, you
Not quite what I was going for, but okay.
dirty, dirty thing, you.
You dirty puppet, you. Moving on.
Oh God.
Moving on.
Okay.
Yes.
What have you come up with?
Okay, so I did think about vampires. And what did vampires mean to me, personally?
I love a vampire.
I love a vampire. So we are having this week
Okay.
a succulent blood.
Oh, that's great.
It's good for a vampire.
Succulent blood.
Succulent blood.
That's an actual cocktail.
Actual cocktail.
Oh, I've clutched my pearls.
You have.
I have. Oh my goodness. That's so good.
It seemed appropriate.
It better be. With that build up, with that
Yeah,
name.
we'll find out
Sorry,
what
that
it's
was
like.
quite threatening. Sorry.
You generally are quite threatening.
Very good. Love a vampire. They're very sexy, mostly.
Mostly.
Well, we can rate the sexy vampire films later.
Okay.
Okay, good. I am excited. I think it is high time for us to glide on fog into the poisonous cabinet kitchen and shake up a storm, so we'll see you in a minute.
We'll see you in a bit.
And we're back!
Hello.
Well, Nick, the succulent blood.
Succulent blood.
Succulent blood. It is bloody-ish.
Bloody-ish.
Anemic blood.
Anemic blood.
It's anemic blood. It's not blood red.
No, not quite.
Now, it's more of a peachy kind of...
More of a yes, a
pinky
orangey.
blood. The kind of blood they use in the bad Hammer horror films.
Yes.
Well, there is... Sorry, excuse me. There is no bad Hammer horror film. The bad blood.
The bad blood
they
in
use.
the excellent horror films.
Yes, it was a little bit sort of gloopy and everything. But yes, the vibes are immaculate otherwise. Okay, so... But it's succulent blood.
Yep.
I'm expecting it to be succulent. A succulent Chinese meal.
We shall find out.
Okay, all right. So it's... Oh, it smells of things.
It does smell of things.
It does smell of things.
Things.
It smells almost smoky.
So it smells thingish.
Oh, very seasonal. Okay, I think we should dive in.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Merry Christmas. Oh, hello.
Oh, there are definite things.
Oh, there are things. I'm okay with that. I think. Oh, and the flavours are developing. The flavours.
The things are going. They're still going.
Oh, that is a crisp autumnal drink. Oh, that is Halloween in a glass, my
Yes,
friend.
it is.
It's not a pumpkin spice, obviously.
No.
Okay, so that's nice and sharp. Got
like
a
that.
sweetness, but it has got a smokiness.
Yes.
Has that got Lafroig in it?
No.
Mezcal?
Yes.
Hey.
Boo.
Hey.
One of the two smoky things. Pick one.
Yeah.
50-50.
Yeah. Has this got blood oranges in it?
No.
I could lie, but I did go to 2 shops trying to find you fresh blood oranges.
Oh, I just like blood oranges.
Oh, do you just like to have them in the
Yeah, I
house?
just like having them in the house.
Yeah, to scare people.
Yeah. I like chucking them at people.
I'm sure there's blood orange juice. I didn't actually.
There is a juice.
There is a juice. I didn't actually look for the juice. You actually texted me going, juice will do, after I was looking everywhere for
No,
it.
this is freshly hand squished.
No, it's hand squished, and also they don't call them blood oranges anymore.
Do they not?
Well, in Waitrose,
Oh.
where I had to go to. Blush oranges. And this is the Italian one where they went out of their way to say everything but blood.
Blood.
Red fleshed, red,
Exactly, yeah, 'cause
ruby,
I didn't
juicy.
recognise the name, and I sort of cut them open and go, that looks very blood orangey.
Oh, exactly.
And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is. It's just they're being pretentious.
I know, but it's also Halloween. Come on, lean into it.
Lean into the blood.
So there's a blood orange in there, and there's mezcal.
Yes.
We're on to a winner already.
Yes.
Citrus, limes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I actually forgot that I brought you limes as well.
You also brought limes.
That had left my brain. That had absolutely left my brain. Yay! Mezcal, limes, blood orange.
Yep.
How many more things?
2 things.
Oh, 2 things. Okay.
What else do you bring me?
A tiny pumpkin.
And
Sausage rolls.
they've got one of them in there.
What? I'm really confused. What?
Oh, I'm being silly.
Oh, okay. Right, I would believe you if you just said you. Oh, you did.
I blended a sausage roll and put it in there.
No. Okay, so what else? In there? Another spirit?
There is another spirit.
Okay, gin.
Nope.
Rum.
Yeah.
Oh, golden rum, white rum,
No,
dark
no,
rum,
No.
rum adjacent.
Rum adjacent.
Cachaça.
That's not. But no.
I don't know what I'm saying. The sugar cane one.
It is a sugar caney thing.
Veritivera.
Oh, I think you're almost trying to get there.
I'm trying to get that. Verinium.
Stop with the V's. Stop with the V's. Yes.
Verenium. What? That's not a word. I'm really actually trying. I'm not. No. No. Stop. Don't you do it. It's worse.
It's quite funny.
Fern. Oh, no, this is a stutter. I can't do it. What's it for? No, I'm stuck. Ferenium?
No.
What is that? That's a new element. The ferenium.
Ferenium.
Is it made of ferenium? Yes, it is. Please tell me what it is.
Falernum.
Oh, falernum.
Falernum.
That's. Is it not
Velvet falernum.
Oh, that's where I'm getting the V from.
That's where you're getting the V from.
Hey, there we are.
Falernum.
Falernum, which is
it's a rum-based spirit, but is much more spicy. So it's got cloves and that sort of random sort of stuff, and it's made in Barbados originally.
delicious.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of that, just to get a hint of a bit of spiciness going on.
And there's one more thing.
And there's
Bitters?
some cinnamon syrup.
Oh, cinnamon.
So we get some cinnamon.
Do I detect a hint of cinnamon?
Cinnamon to get your autumnal cinnamoniness.
That is a lovely autumn drink.
I think that's a treat.
I think it is a treat. I don't know if we'd ever make it again, but right now it's wonderful.
Yeah, I can imagine making that going, oh, look, some fireworks.
Are there actual fireworks?
Not at the moment.
No.
That's what in my imagination.
Is it just that you're drunk and going, look at fireworks while you're sitting on the kitchen floor?
My 12th succulent of blood.
That is a really, really good Halloween drink.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
think,
good.
I think it'll be a good punchy one. Good to make up
Yes.
as a bit of a punch type
Oh my
thing.
God, absolutely. Guys, if you're having a Halloween party.
Because a lot of it is juice. So
Yeah.
it's not, it is alcoholic, obviously, but the vast majority is fruit juice in there. So I think it'll be a good punchy one with some floating eyeballs.
Yes, with lychees, with
Yeah, exactly.
blueberry in it. Yeah, as an eyeball.
So, yeah.
I think that's great. And again, it's the sort of one that you could probably put in a big punch bowl, fuck about a little bit with the ingredients on.
Yeah, indeed.
Not too much,
Not too
but
much.
it's not a nuanced
No.
delivery of
You could-
kind of
yeah,
the
you could have some fun with
measurements. Yeah, that's gorgeous.
Put a
Ooh.
bit of grenadine if you wanted to make you more bloody ready.
Yeah, that's a
Bit
great
of
idea.
grenadine in there would really oomph up the red. So, yep, you could make it very Halloweeny.
You can, and it tastes like autumn.
Yep.
Delicious.
Hurrah!
Hurrah! With the succulent blood firmly in hand, marching towards the graveyard. Is it time for a story, Nick?
It probably is.
Yay, it's my story.
Oh, have you got a story?
I do have a story.
Well, then, yes.
Hooray, hooray, hooray. So, this week, Nick, come with me on a journey.
Okay.
Have the succulent blood in hand. It's misty.
Is it?
Foggy, even. In the graveyard. Ooh. Nick, a terrible, terrible sickness is sweeping rural communities in North America.
Oh.
Once strong and able-bodied people are becoming weaker, their skin is turning pale, their chests are sunken, almost as if the very blood is being sucked out of them.
Almost. But not quite.
There can only be one explanation, Nick.
Is there?
Vampires!
Vampires. I mean, absolutely one explanation.
Well, yes, but no. But yes.
But yes.
Well, actually, I think you'll find that between 1784 and 1892 in New England, in America, more than 80 corpses were dug up from small graveyards across the region, chopped up, burned, rearranged, and then put back in the ground to prevent the dead from rising and killing the living.
And they are wont to do that.
They are. And it's 80 at least. 80 that we know of-ish. There's likely to have been a lot more. And as we have previously said on Patreon, the dead want to get up. No one wants to stay dead.
No, exactly. No one wants to.
Famously, no. Why, I hear you ask? Yes.
Yes, why? 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 Tell me why.
Why were vampires apparently roaming the wilds of New England in the late 1800s? No, they weren't Jack the Ripper.
I say, where else are they going to roam?
Well, some ripperologists would have it that the Ripper was definitely a vampire. No.
Sorry, they're not ripperologists. They're mad people.
That's a very good point. They call themselves ripperologists.
No, they're just nutters.
No, but they could have studied everything in the Ripper history and the canon. They could know it inside out, but still have the conclusion
And they
vampire.
come to the conclusion vampire.
Yeah. They
Right.
could know more than you and I could.
I'm sure many people do. But as soon as they say vampire, you go, no, you're a nutter.
Interesting. If a scientist says vampires, are they still a scientist?
Depends in what context. If they're saying, oh, I watched a really good film this weekend, then I'm probably going, yeah,
No.
okay.
Space vampires. That's it.
But if he's a doctor and said, vampires, then I'm probably going,
No,
not ideal.
give me back your doctorate and your stethoscope
Give me back your stethoscope, yeah.
and your knife. Sorry. No. Well, let me convince you otherwise,
Okay.
Nick. Because this week we are going to tell the tale of the New England vampire panic. Also of the famous Mercy Brown. And a host of other weird goings-on with the blood-sucking dead.
Nice.
Now, we haven't done a lot of vampires on the show, actually.
We haven't done a huge amount.
Well, we really haven't at all, because on the main episode, we've told the backstory of Vlad the Impaler, who was not a vampire.
From a more historical point of view.
Exactly. Much more fun. Inspiration for Dracula.
Yes.
And on Patreon, we've done one little delve into the vampires of Serbia, which is where a lot of the folklore originates from. But we haven't done a lot. Now, we're aware...
They're not known for their criminality.
Well, there are crimes that involve so-called vampires, as in the vampire and such, and then when you sort of look into those stories where people go, oh, would you do the vampire in such and such place? You go, oh, dear God, no.
Because they're just a nasty, horrible person.
They're very horrible. We cry. Please don't make us
They're
do
not
them.
actually about vampires.
There's many a folk tale about creatures that rise from the dead for a bite to eat. Do go and listen to our Patreon episode about the vampires of Serbia, because it does give you some of the background and the folklore around the vampire lore, and it's also very funny. I was listening to it again and going, oh my God, we're quite funny.
We're very
funny. But this week's feature presentation is a fascinating period in American history where everyone was quite convinced that vampires were a thing as we would come to know them. They were a very real threat in New England. Now, first off, where do vampires come from?
Do you mean how are they created, or do you mean what town are they from, geographically?
Sorry, a town.
Do you mean, or how do they come to be?
Obviously, every culture has their own version of a vampire story. Probably every country, every culture in the world has some sort of figure that you could say was a vampire, as a bloodsucker, as someone who's kind of like sucking the life out of your soul, the soul out of your body, dating back hundreds, if not thousands of years. No one knows exactly where the word vampire comes from officially. Now, that is
many theories.
Very different interpretations. I'm not going to pull it apart because you could immediately go, oh, vampire means this and vampire means that. Lots of folklore about different creatures that will hunt for your blood. Mainly the vampires that we know of, that we would say vampires, are from Eastern and Southern Eastern Europe.
Yes.
And there are references, though, to bloodsuckers all the way back to the ancient Greeks. Lots of Chinese.
Well, there are a lot of Chinese
vampires.
Yeah, blood-sucking creatures.
You still need to do one.
Okay.
On that.
Well, find me one who's robbed a shop, and I'll do one.
Well, I'll leave that to you.
So okay. Do an episode on Chinese vampires. We're a true crime podcast.
That's fine. It's spooky month. You can do it on Patreon next week. It's fine. This is very much about vampires. There's not a lot of crime that goes on in this one. This is just vampire. But yes, there's obviously old tales of bloodsuckers through the history. Bloodsuckers, soul suckers, whatever you want to call them. Also links to disorders like porphyria.
Yes.
I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Porphyria, yeah.
Yes, that symptoms in line with vampires. So sensitive to sunlight, you have receding gums, which makes the fangs come out, apparently. Dark urine. And also, like, doctors advising people, drink blood, animals' blood. That'll make you better. What? But it was mainly the interference of the Christian church and also then certain works of literature that gave us the vampires we know and love today, that we see in our minds when you say the words vampires. And the rest is quite literally history. How do you spot a vampire, Mr. Nick? What do they look like?
Pale, sort of very pallid creatures. I think the big cloak gives it away as well. We'll see some pointy fangs.
Yes, I like the cloak. The cloak yes,
aristocratic indeed.
Yes.
Big old widow's peak sort of hair going on.
Yeah.
Possibly a cane of some sort.
Oh, a cane. I like the way you've added a cane in.
No, absolutely. I think
Dracula has a limp or just likes to
I think he's a dramatic bastard.
Yes. We're going very heavily on the Dracula image there.
He likes an entrance.
Yes, we're going on Bram Stoker's version of Dracula, the aristocrat. And everything.
A bit of Christopher Lee, so yeah, bring it on.
But aside from Christopher Lee, if you were a peasant back in...
I think
even in the...
traditionally, you're probably looking at some sort of little monster who lives in a cave type thing. Like some little creature.
That's a wonderful description.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you find that in the encyclopedia?
Some sort of decrepit, withered.
Yeah.
Bleh.
Less sexy.
Yeah, much less attractive.
But much more realistic.
More sort of bestial
Yes.
than aristocratic.
Primal
Yes,
of the earth,
exactly.
kind of, yes.
Big hairy
living in blood.
hands, apparently.
Oh, do they have
Yeah,
hairy
no, I
hands?
think I read that. Yeah, so in some sort of, I think, especially like Romanian sort of things.
Yes.
It's sort of, big hairy hands and obviously long nails.
Very
for,
long nails.
For clawing at people and
Well, the long nails...
digging out of coffins.
Where would the long nails come from?
Well, it's generally because obviously where your skin shrinks back after you've died and all that sort of
The
stuff.
idea that if you were... the corpses show they're still alive,
There's
their
nails.
nails have grown
Yeah.
and their hair has grown.
You just,
but-
skin's just shrinking.
Yeah, it looks like you've got longer nails than when you started
Yeah.
with.
Indeed. So,
Yes.
Yes.
The hairy
yes.
hands I quite like, actually,
Yeah.
because that was featured again in the documentary Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yes. So again, so quite a bestial sort of animalistic sort of thing, rather than a suave prince. Like.
And if you were trying to find if a corpse was a vampire, what would you be looking for when you dug the coffin up and you
Sort of
open the coffin?
a flush of cheek
Oh, yes,
after being recently
yeah.
thrown. That's a small dribble of blood.
Yes, quite healthy looking.
Yes, quite healthy looking
Yeah.
pallor. Yeah, absolutely.
Indeed.
So no decomposition, obviously.
No,
Completely fresh as a daisy.
none whatsoever.
Yeah.
So when people were digging up corpses and going, we reckon there's a vampire down there, and people were digging up coffins and opening them up, they would find figures in there that had not decomposed 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, maybe even after they'd been buried. They found that their fingernails had grown because the skin had grown back. Their hair seemed longer because their hair had receded on there, and that they would be flushed with blood, and there would be blood in their mouth. They would just seem puffy and full looking. Yes. Now this is just the natural process of decomposition.
Yes, you get bloated and gaseous. Everything inside goes.
Again, another word.
I mean, my sound effects are excellent. Almost as good as my accents.
But yes, fluid is escaping the body. Gases too, as well. So when you touch the body, sounds
Delightfully farting corpses.
sounds will appear, and people go, "Oh my god, it's screaming! Oh dear!" The corpses in the ground as well, not decomposing. Two things there.
Or frozen, because it's very cold.
There we go. Yeah, one of them frozen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Most of these things
New England.
frozen,
Quite chilly.
very
Over
chilly.
winter.
Serbia.
Also chilly.
Yep, Eastern Europe, yep, very, very chilly. Like, oh my God, there's nothing's changed. Well, they're actually an ice block
Yes, they're
now.
actually frozen solid.
You have chiseled them out of there as well. Can't discount the old, and let's just say it because it's Halloween, arsenic! Arsenic alarm!
Yes,
Arsenic alarm!
preventing the
Arsenic alarm! If the area happened to be very heavily arsenic
Have to be
deposits...
quite heavily arsenic.
Yeah, but still, or again, a lot of the cases of vampires, where in most of the stories we've done, we have documented very heavily how much arsenic that person has had in their life.
Yes.
There's a lot of people who are taking arsenic, and whether you're in a rural community, certainly in the east of Europe, yeah, people are taking arsenic a little bit. So could account. I think that's much smaller
Yes.
than just ice. Yeah,
But
it's much more likely to
certainly
be
a
ice.
possibility.
But we can't discount it. We'd be wrong if we did. But there we are. How do you make a vampire?
Well, there's also, I mean, obviously, traditionally, you get bitten by a vampire.
Bitey bitey.
Bitey bitey.
Feedy feedy.
Feedy feedy, yes. Just
Yummy
sort of, yes, drinking the vampire's blood. Mm-hmm. But there's other ways as well.
When you say traditionally, you mean
Traditionally.
Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, those are sort of, the sort of the well-known. But I mean, is it also, you've got things like, if an animal jumped over their coffin type thing,
Yes.
they become a vampire, and really weird shit like that.
It's a Slavic and a Chinese
Yeah.
tradition that if a cat or a dog jumps over a corpse, they will
They
become
become
the
a vampire.
undead.
So it's like, that's weird.
That is quite weird.
So how do
There's no other information
How
on
those
that.
links, how someone has then, that's someone desperately looking for connection, isn't it? As to, okay, why is this person puffy and not decomposed or whatever? Oh, I know, a cat jumped over them.
Yes.
And that's desperately looking for coincidence or
It is.
linkage that's really not there.
It does seem quite odd that if an animal
Yeah.
jumped over a corpse, yeah. There's lots of other ways of finding them that are ludicrous. How do you stop a vampire? Now, there's several things that are going to come from this of like, what do you do to tackle a vampire in the ground? Or if you're battling the Dracula of screen and everything and the vampires we know that...
Stake you through the heart.
Stake you through the heart, crucifix, so back you.
Garlic bread.
Garlic bread.
All those
It's a taste sensation.
traditional ones. But they can't cross running water.
Yes, I love
That's-
that one.
Yeah, so obviously a big old stream would do it.
Yeah.
And they love accounting as well.
What?
They love counting.
Sorry, I thought you said accounting, as in like give them some records.
Well, it gives them some sums.
Yeah, like your castle is actually racking up so many bills. Honestly,
they love counting things.
They do.
So
okay,
you sort of
again, I've got this written down.
You sort of throw down a bag full of seeds, and the vampire sort of is just compelled to stop in sort of a crazy OCD way and count how many seeds there are, and then the sun comes up and they burst into flames, type thing. So
it is in China. You leave sacks of rice out, and they have to just go one rice, two rice.
So they they have to count things.
So how did that come about? I want to know why they are that level of the spectrum that they just have to go. No, I have to count that. I have to count that. I have to count that.
I don't know where that comes from, but it's truly odd.
Yes, yeah, you can do all sorts of things like sever the tendons of their, just cut their legs off.
Cut their legs off.
Yeah, place poppy seeds in the ground.
Well, again, I think that's a county thing.
Oh, is that a county thing?
I think it's because they're compelled to count.
Oh, I like it. Okay, people, if you're facing off a vampire, just before you go for the steak, before you go for the garlic, not a steak, not an actual cooked steak, just wave that at them. Yeah, throw some poppy seeds on the ground. It's annoying to clean up. But also, it will get rid of a vampire.
I'm thinking, I've got a Hoover, so once a vampire's gone, I can just run the Hoover
the vampire
around.
doesn't have a Hoover. Yeah, loser. Yeah. If you want to find a vampire's grave, there's a very good trick for that. I mean, there's a couple. I genuinely read on one list, look for a big hole in the ground. Like, you mean a grave that's been dug up? Yeah,
that'll do it. That'll do it.
Or lead a virgin boy on a virgin horse.
Because the horse won't go over a vampire's grave.
No, it won't.
Yeah, it'll go. A normal person, a horse will trample right through.
But what? Why do you know this?
I know a lot of shit about vampires. I read a lot of this stuff. I've got books on vampire folklore.
Again, the virgin horse and the virgin boy,
and
but
they have to be virgins.
They have to be virgins, and there's a vampire raging through the town. They're like, the horse lied to us. The horse like, sorry, I have needs. You slut, you
slut horse, you.
I just like to dance. That's just it. The boys are like, why was I dragged out of bed? What's happening? I'm sleepy. Yeah, so that's it. Try and find a virgin horse in this town. Yeah, very good. So there we go. We've got various tools. We're pretty prepared for this. Now, from about the 11th century onwards, and again, this is acknowledging that way before that, through the centuries, there had been various what we would call vampire legends that are very precious to every culture that is out there. But sort of from around, I'd say around the 11th century onwards, we start to see sort of documented-ish, as best as they can, accounts of vampires. So those can be creatures crawling through the land and attacking towns, or people who are succumbing to the, to the urges of the moon, or to the, the blood urge that they have. Different periods, different tales of communities seemingly played by vampires, werewolves, witches. We've done way more werewolves.
We've done a lot of werewolves, haven't we? We have done a lot of werewolves.
Well, it's quite good for crime, really, because there's lots of people who have gone like, I was a werewolf. And like, no, you will go to jail. Vampires, not so much.
It's odd that people will go, oh no, I was a werewolf. But no one goes, oh, I was a vampire.
Well, it is, again, something we keep threatening to talk to Roanna about, our expert witness. But because lycanthropy is a condition affected by the moon, whereas a vampire is just like, blood. Then you go, cannibal. Then you go, oh, you're a cannibal. And then they go, no, I was a vampire. Woo. But it's quite dark. Compared to the werewolf stories are horrible as well, but they're much more ancient. Really, medieval Europe particularly was beset by beasties, and in most cases it was a convenient explanation for a literal lunatic running around fucking shit up.
Yeah.
Whereas the vampire is much more like, I'm a psychopath and a serial killer and everything, but then the press called them a vampire. So, interesting. It's easy to laugh off the slightly wilder tales from the older period, the 13th, 14th century, but why on earth were so many people in the 1800s, which we think would be a little bit more enlightened, believing that the dead were sending spirits to kill the living? And were they right?
No.
Fine. Okay.
I'm sorry.
The end.
The end.
So the New England vampire panic takes place in the 1800s, as I've said. Its most famous case landing in 1892, but this is after a long time of similar cases. So America just gotten rid of all its witches.
This is true, yes.
Now vampires. It's had a good 150, 200 years of
Yeah.
like, oh god, nobody's these goddamn these
These
vampires.
vampires, all these vampires coming in from the old world.
What can we do? Can we call that woman a vampire? No, you can't actually. We've been very clear on that now. Okay, fine. So Mercy Brown lived in Rhode Island, and she was the daughter of George and Mary Brown. She lived in the town of Exeter.
Yes.
There's an Exeter in Rhode Island.
There is.
And it's a so-called border town. It's sort of a barren sort of place. Very farmlandy, but even modern people who promote Exeter go, it's just rocks.
There's not a lot here.
It's not a lot here. So lots of farmsteads where you would have smaller graveyards and smaller communities. It's got a population of just under 1,000 people, and the population has dropped dramatically because many people have gone off to fight in the war beforehand, and also gone big city. Fuck this shit.
There's jobs over there.
There's a railroad now. Hello, goodbye. So Exeter is typical of many of the rural places that were similarly hit with vampire troubles at this time. Winters there, harsh,
Yes.
yeah, brutal, lot of hard-working people, and the Brown family are not having the best of times. Now, not much is known about their collective childhoods.
About any of them, really.
Again, you could sort of pour over all the past of it, and there have been some very good books written about them where people are just kind of going, and they were born here, and they stood in this house over there, and they did that. But really, it comes down to the winter of 1883, when sickness befalls the family.
Yes.
So you have George and Mary Eliza Brown. They have 3 children. They have Mary Alice. Sometimes Mary is called Mary Olive, the daughter.
Okay.
But we're going to go Mary the daughter.
Mary.
The mother, Mary the daughter. Then you have Edwin, the boy.
Boy.
And then you have Mercy Lena Brown. It's the youngest. So in December 1883, Mother Mary Eliza starts showing signs of a strange illness. Strange to them, yes,
Yeah.
just showing weakness. She's pale. She's coughing a lot. She is slowly started to succumb to this illness and taken to her bed, and she dies that month. Awful tragedy. A few months later, her daughter Mary, also called Mary, also falls to the illness, and over several weeks she gets sicker and sicker, and she dies aged 20. Her last hours apparently were of great suffering, yet her faith was firm and she was ready for the change.
Oh.
Now,
Into a vampire.
Maybe. Now George, the father, has seen his wife and his daughter die in this pretty rough
Pretty grim,
landscape.
yeah,
You
absolutely.
can imagine a film that. And in 1891, this is a few years later, so this is over time, his son Edwin, strong husky, he's described as, he is a store clerk, and he's showing signs of the same illness. The same illness, and his father is panicking. My son, okay, right, another one.
Not my son.
Not my son, not my son. Immediately packs Edwin off to Colorado.
Yes.
Off to Colorado to convalesce. There's warmth. You'll be better off. You can go and stay with relatives, do whatever you need. Like,
Get away from
please,
here.
please, Edwin, survive. I will point out Mercy has also started showing signs of illness.
Let's go.
Fuck her. Yeah. Basically kicked out of the way so Edwin can get on a train. And she's like, Daddy, please. No, you're a girl. Awful. No, my boy, my golden boy. So that happens.
That happens.
Yeah. He's the only hope for the family. Now, George is sensible and practical, indeed, in sending the boy off to Colorado. He knows his poor family are suffering from a terrible sickness. He isn't sure why God has chosen to test him. He is a good, God-fearing man, but he must put his faith in the Lord and hope that recovery will come. But his faith is shattered again when on the 17th of January, 1892, Mercy Brown dies of the same illness that claimed her sister and her mother. She is just 19 years old. He can do nothing but pray that his son will survive. But there are whispers in the community, close to him, his neighbours, his friends. They are whispering that this is no normal sickness. The loved ones he has lost have been taken by a vampire.
Oh.
Now, they will call it spirits,
Yes.
but we're going to refer to it as a vampire.
As a vampire.
As a vampire. And Edwin will be next unless he acts. Now, are there vampires in New England at this time, Nick?
Well, apparently so.
Yeah,
If we are to believe our story.
absolutely. Fine,
then
good.
yes.
There's vampires and
Yeah.
they're going to fight them.
They're going to absolutely.
Could there be, and now I'm going to go out on a limb here. Could there be another explanation of what could have befallen the family?
I think you might be clutching at straws if you're trying to find certain other information. But you are prone to a leap of frightful fancy. I'm suggesting some sort of disease may be in order. Some sort of poorliness.
Well, what kind of disease could that be?
I think traditionally it's probably a TB type disease.
TB?
Some sort of consumption.
Oh, you mean consumption, the White Death?
Yes, that's quite vampire-y.
Yeah, it could be that.
Yeah.
Could definitely, absolutely be that.
Well.
Yes. TB is sweeping the world. The world. There is an epidemic in America at this time. And normally when entire families are wiped out by an illness that makes people sort of like a bit tired and pukey and a bit sick, we go poison. But it's not that, unfortunately, right now. No. TB has hit New England pretty hard. So consumption, as it was known at the time, an infectious disease that affects the lungs primarily, can affect other parts of the body. It is airborne. It ravages the body.
Yeah.
So victims will have a terrible cough that, as you said, will produce blood. So a rasping cough, a heavy cough, there will be speckles of blood and splatters of blood and gushes of blood at different points. The face becomes gaunt and pale. They have rasping breath, so they sound like...
Sound like nice death rattliness.
Lose weight rapidly, wasting away. They'll be tired all the time, sensitive to daylight, maybe. And their chest will even begin to sink as the disease ravages the lungs and starts to destroy that. So that everything sort of concaves in. They literally look like they're wasting away, and as if the very life is being sucked out of them, being taken from them. The disease is contagious, as we know. So one family member dies, another seems to follow suit. It's slow. The symptoms can creep up. There are some families who will have no symptoms.
Yeah.
It can be asymptomatic. It can be seemingly pass by people. But at the time, it's wiped out 2% of the New England population.
Christ.
Yeah. So pretty devastating. But very few people in these communities, particularly on the rural ones, know about TB. There is no inoculation.
There is no doctor going around, oh, it's TB.
No, the inoculation will be another 30-odd years away. And they're still trying to work out what TB is. They're convinced, instead, that the dead are sending spirits to drain the life out of their family members. Now, why do these people jump to vampires? Why do people jump to, it's vampires, it's spirits, rather than maybe it's a thing? Maybe it's just, maybe we've got a cough or people are sick.
I mean, people do jump to a conclusion, don't they? God is punishing me or my family for, I don't know, I looked at that other lady once.
I looked at that sexy horse.
Yeah.
It wasn't a virgin.
And therefore I'm being punished by God, and he's sending all his evil spirits. And
It's a little bit of that as well, and we can't possibly know for certain, but we can, you know, with the benefit of hindsight, a lot of us will be going like, why wouldn't you just go there ill? It's just not that world that they live in.
No.
These are rural communities. A lot of them are poor. Some of them are doing okay, but they don't have access to the latest information about diseases from public health. The news they do receive are from travellers, passed on mostly in the oral tradition at the nearest tavern or the dry goods store. So you're going to go out, someone's going to tell you something, and it's going to be kind of hypocritical. It's going to be kind of like,
oh, 15th hand, isn't
yes.
it? So, and
Did
by
you
that
not
time,
hear?
like Chinese whispers, sort of. It's turned out, oh, like someone in Boston's got TB, and by the time it reaches there, like Boston's full of vampires. Ah!
Literally just, well, someone was wasting away. No one knows what it is. No one knows. And there's going to be a lot of fear mongering and genuine fear, because if you don't know what's happening, they don't know what advances are being made in science about TB. And it's not to be critical of them and sort of say, oh, they're all ignorant and stupid. It's just they don't have access to the information.
They don't know, absolutely.
There are also religious communities, very religious. Faith can be the only thing that gets you through the day, and the belief in the power of prayer and the belief in the power of the devil is all consuming. They're overworked, they're tired, they're stressed after a very hard day's work with horrible weather at different points, and it seems their fortunes are out of their control.
Yeah.
When you go through the trauma also of witnessing loved ones dying.
I mean, it must feel like you are being punished for something.
Yes.
So yeah, you're not praying hard enough, or you're not believing hard enough, or
Yeah. And it's not, and it is trauma. We're calling that now, but back then it'd be like, oh no, you just get on and do this, and it's a very different sort of way of thinking, a way of behaving. They would not react to it in a certain way, but this is stress after stress after stress of things that are out of your control. If these things come up, if someone says, hey, all of your problems being caused by vampires and here's how to defeat the whole situation, you're probably going to take that apple.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to solve all your problems with one magic thing.
Yeah.
Then you're going to go, okay.
Saying that this is the root of all the pain that you're suffering. Some people have mentioned it could be mass hallucinations, probably mass hysteria.
Hysteria, yes.
Hysteria, hallucinations, you can't discount it. The if the grain has gone bad, if the water is contaminated, yes, you could be all going, there's vampires. It's not so much that vibe, but it only takes...
Yeah, it's not really like, oh, I'm seeing vampires type thing, or I'm seeing monsters.
No.
And sort of like hallucinating sort of thing. It's just something fucking weird's happening here, and I can't explain it, and therefore it must be this unseen, unnatural force that's doing it.
And we call mass hysteria. Hysteria, a horrible word, but still, it's enough violent deaths or enough unnatural deaths happen, even 2 or 3, you're going to think, okay, we're cursed, we've all got to get together, there's something amiss here. It's much better en masse than it is you individually going, what the fuck is going to happen? So yeah, that's probably why everyone's freaking out. These are not the first cases of vampire panic. This is probably the most famous one in New England that everyone knows about. Village in Serbia in the 1700s, 17 people were exhumed by the locals who were found to be displaying evidence of vampirism. Yeah. So this has been going on a while in Europe. We've established everyone's on board with just vampires. They're real. There we are in Rhode Island. As George Brown is wrestling with his conscience and the locals are coming forward with tips and tricks and their own stories of beating vampires. But how on earth do you stop a vampire, Nick?
Cut the heads off.
Well, I think we should have a drink.
Oh, okay.
Nick, we have our drinks.
We do.
So, vampires.
Vampires.
How do we stop them?
I've also had my crucifix and my steak and my
Lightly done.
my lightly done steak
And your virgin horse.
and my virgin horse.
Are you sure? To find the vampires, though, in New England, in these communities, and as they're whispering to George, lots of people are telling their own stories and the secondhand stories of like, this happened to me, this happened to my friend, this happened to her, because it's quite a spread out community where TB is going to hit a few families and they're all going to be doing the same sort of thing. So they're all sharing these tips. All you need to do is just desecrate the graves, dig up the coffins and check the corpses are oddly preserved and then do shit to them.
Do shit to a corpse.
Yeah, fuck up the corpse.
Nice. Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And this has been backed up by fairly modern discoveries. Do the corpses look plump and fresh, and is there blood in their mouth? And if you squeeze the heart, does blood shoot out? Oh, yeah, there's surely signs they've recently been fed. Now, it's worth noting at this point that, as I said, I'm using the word vampires. They call them spirits. They would not have called them vampires as we're calling them. The press did. At the time of Mercy Brown, they started calling them vampires using the information that they had from Eastern Europe and all of this folklore. They started applying it, whereas the people at the time would have said there's spirits coming back from the dead.
The spirits and revenants.
Yes, the revenants. Yes,
that's a good word.
It's a very good word. I mean, a lot of people have written about going, no, they don't think they're vampires, but they do genuinely think the dead are sucking the life out of people. They don't necessarily think you can see them walking around, but they're doing something.
They're not quite as well dressed as a vampire.
They're not seeing the ghosts in the graveyard, but they think shit is happening.
Yeah.
They're not happy. So to stop a vampire, once you've gone in and gone like, okay, we think this is a vampire here, you can turn the corpse over.
As when they dig it out, they're going just down.
Yeah, you can go to the coffin. You dig, open the coffin.
Yeah.
Person lying there, just flip the corpse over.
Yeah, exactly. So when the corpse wakes and tries to...
Oh, it's facing down.
Yes, tries to then claw their way out to this...
Yeah.
They're going the wrong way. They're going deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
So,
it's like a computer game where you're facing a wall and it's just constant there, yeah. So just flip them over.
Yeah.
Much more safe to cut out the heart and the other organs, burn them, cut the head off, bind their feet with thorns, smear yourself in the vampire's blood, if needs be, and then eat a little bit of them.
Yeah, yes, I remember reading about this. You're sort of meant to, if you burn the heart, you like mix the ash with boo beer or something and drink
What is
it.
water? You make
Stop
a
the
tonic.
vampire coming after you type thing. If
You
you're,
do. You have a little bit of basically homeopathy.
Yeah, a little bit of what ails you.
A little bit of what ails you won't kill you.
Yeah.
Turns out it does.
That's what it does, yeah.
Yeah. So just grind up the ash that you have burned, and then drink it, rub it on yourself and everything. At the time, like, yes, the blood of the creature, you will consume it. It won't come for you. In hindsight, take this heavily infected body and just chuck it all over yourself. No problems whatsoever.
What could possibly go wrong?
Absolutely none. Yeah, people believed it. People believed it. They did it at the time. Now, in 1990,
That's quite recent.
1990. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. There were some children playing in New London County in Connecticut. And they were playing in a gravel pit. And they were playing. And they played and they dug away some gravel and then there was a skull.
And they stopped playing and started screaming.
And just walked into the sea. Yes. They just like, no. So obviously everyone, oh my God. So they bring the experts in to dig away at the gravel and they find the remains of this farm burial ground. Now, it's not the ones of the Mercy of the Brown family, but they find it dates back from the 1800s and they find one coffin amongst them. Most of them are normal, but one that is painted red. Ooh. It's marked JB55. They open it up and the skeleton inside was not how a skeleton should be.
Okay.
They have inside the coffin, the bones have been rearranged. The leg bones, the femurs, have been rearranged in the head to make a literal skull and crossbones.
Oh, wow.
So it's been positioned like that. The chest has clearly been cracked open, and they think it's to take the heart.
Damn.
And so they've sort of gussied the skeleton up like that. No, he couldn't have died like that.
Yeah.
That's weird. And they realise that this rearrangement has occurred 5 years after the person died.
Wow.
So they've gone in, someone's gone into the grave, they've dug it up, they have torn out the heart or pulled out the heart and then rearranged the skeleton.
Much left after 5 years.
Well, that's it. They just got the bones, but then they got what they could. I mean, the organ, whatever it was, or they were looking for it, or they were pulling it apart because there was probably clothes on it still after 5 years, looking for the heart. But then they just rearranged it thinking that this was a vampire or trying to just be careful. They worked out who it was. It was a farmer named John Barber who died when he was 55. So that's the code on the front.
Right.
But he was a big source of information. This was a massive find at the time. Folklorist Michael Bell, who has written many a book and he did loads of research into the Rhode Island vampires, and he's a really great source for the New England vampire myths and stuff. And so when they found this, they realised, okay, this is why people were doing this. People were literally trying to get rid of vampires in their minds.
Brilliant.
So, yeah, it's interesting. Also, other stories start to emerge as well, that in Vermont around 1793, so a fair while back, there was a heart-burning ceremony of a supposed vampire. It was dug up, attracted hundreds of spectators. Now, I think this was the case, apparently, of Captain Isaac Burton. There's a case of Burton that's mentioned in a couple of sources. I have put them together and I believe they are of the same. But Captain Burton's first wife, Rachel, died. And then his second wife, Hulda, was struck down with what we would say is TB, but struck down with an illness. So they dug up Rachel.
Well, the revenge of the wife.
The vengeful first wife. The vengeful first wife. And they tore out her heart and they burned it. And then fed it to Hulda in the tonic. Apparently, Timothy Mead officiated at the altar in the sacrifice to the demon vampire who it was believed was still sucking the blood of the then living wife of Captain Burton. It was the month of February and a good slaying.
It's a good jolly slaying we had.
It was. Hulda died.
Oh, God.
She very much died. She didn't want to eat it like a charred heart, but they did.
Heart,
they did.
Yes. But
There was also a great account as well from about 1873 of a Dr. Lucy Abel, which I won't read in full, but she just does this report about how people were trying to fight tuberculosis, thinking it was vampirism, and they just got drunk. And you had some boys who were trying to do all of these superstitions, like burning the hearts of buried people, and it did nothing to cure them of their ailments in their family. So they just started drinking heavily, and that seemed to cure it. And she was trying to say, I don't want to advocate drinking, but apparently it works.
Seems to work.
They were like, oh, no deaths have occurred since then. There was a newspaper report in the Boston Globe in 1890, so this is a couple of years before Mercy Brown died, and It was, I believe it was the Boston Globe, and it was called that, and the headline was Vampirism in Vermont. So this is all the rage again, and it's referring to a story from 1834 where they've dug up from the archives of a young man in the Crowin family who fell gravely ill, poor appetite, weakness, pale skin, and he was buried in Cushing Cemetery. But then 6 months later, his brother became ill, and everyone said, vampires, vampires. They dug him up. They found his heart was mysteriously undecayed and filled with fresh liquid blood, not congealed. And they did what was necessary. They boiled his heart in a pot. They buried it. They didn't eat it.
Okay.
They buried it in a hole. They put a huge block of granite on top, and then the site was sprinkled with the blood of a young bullock.
Okay.
A rookie mistake using blood to deter vampires. Apparently, there was a legend that at that site where the heart of the brother was buried, some local schoolboys tried to dig up the ground to mess around with the heart.
I'm sure they did.
And of course, they were scared away because there were rumbling sounds. There was screaming as if from underneath the earth, and they ran away. There is no record of that family ever existing. There isn't a record of them, but the story is still told as a legend as well. So this would have been going around, I'm sure. But back to the Brown family.
Back to the
So
Browns.
George Brown is standing there, and all the locals are going, you need to dig up all of your family's corpses, and then you'll save your son. Edwin has been in Colorado. The treatment on the warm air has not worked. He is still so sick. He is sent home. His father calls him back because he's like, if my son is going to die,
Want him here? Yeah.
please, he is praying and he is hoping that his son will be okay. And the voices of the villagers increase tenfold. They say that he is a victim of vampirism or of a spirit. They believe that if the father allows the townsfolk to dig up the remains of his wife and 2 daughters, they can kill the vampire and get a tonic to save Edwin. And apparently George is skeptical.
None of those 3 are the vampire.
They say it's the dead. They say that the living, they succumb to it, but one of them would have been the vampire and was leeching the life out of the rest of their family members. That's what they believe. They believe that... So what we know is TB hits the house. Someone is suffering from it. One person in the house is the vampire and is sucking the life
But they're
out
still
of
alive
others.
at this point.
They're still
They're
alive,
a
but
living
even
vampire.
they could be alive. But then even if they die in death, they send
They
spirits
still-
to leech the life out of them. It doesn't have a lot of rhyme or reason to it.
Yes, perhaps I'm looking for logic where I should not be looking for logic.
Well, we would probably go, well, then the mother surely would have been, and then she died first of a sickness and then was leeching out of everyone else. But they will take what they can get.
Yeah, fair enough.
So apparently the dad is skeptical, but he allows this to go ahead. And also, a lot of the townsfolk are being like, if there's vampires, we need to get rid of them before they come for our family. So on the 17th of March, St. Patrick's Day, 1892, the townsfolk and a doctor trot down to the Chestnut Hill Cemetery.
Nice.
It's very nice. And they dig up Mary Eliza, Mary the daughter, and Mercy Brown. Mother and the oldest daughter, pretty rotten, standard corpse behaviour. But then Mercy is a different story. Now, she's been dead but 2 months
Yeah.
in the winter.
Not going to be quite as gloopy. And frozen solid.
Remarkably fresh.
Yeah.
Preserved even. Oh, yes, very good. Her mouth fresh with blood. And they dig around and they get to the heart. Liquid blood. Nothing congealed. She's consumed something. Has she fed? And that way we would think that a vampire is up and fed. She has consumed something. They are convinced that it's Mercy is the vampire who has been plaguing her family, who has sucked the life out of the others. So some think that with the mother, with the sister, the brother was sent away, couldn't get at him. She died, but still beyond the grave could still send this out. This is all 6 of one, half a dozen of the other in this
Desperately
story.
trying to make this work.
Yes, but Mercy Brown is deemed to be the vampire.
Yeah.
She is opened up. They take the heart out. The doctor who has helped to open this up is shouting, well, no, because
well, good. I'm glad he's
this
shouting
would
no.
be normal. But they're like, no, you crazy science man. We brought you along just to help. They take out her heart. They burn it. They grind it to ash. They mix the ash in with water and they give it to Edwin to drink as a tonic to save his life. Mercy Brown was then reburied. Edwin would go on to live
Oh.
for 2 months.
Yeah.
And then he
God, people's hopes up there.
then he definitely died of TB. And Ash, horror. The father, George Brown, would outlive all of them.
Well, surely he was the vampire.
Well, he did not have TB. He didn't get it because you don't.
Because he was a vampire.
But he would live. People said he lived to see the discovery of the BCG vaccine. I'm
sure that was a great deal of comfort for him.
Yes, by the way, there is a vaccine to treat all of this. It was definitely TB, was it?
My daughter was not a vampire.
From the point that she was buried and afterwards, Mercy Brown was the vampire, and she was forever known as the last vampire of New England after this huge panic where multiple people were dug up, were thought to be vampires. Their graves were desecrated, but by their loved ones, by people who thought they were doing the right thing.
With the best intentions.
With the best intentions, not in a nasty way, but like, you must be a vampire. But her name passed into legend. Her grave is still regularly visited. People leave gifts there. And there were many, many articles written about Mercy, and she was the poster girl for the vampire panic. People decrying the crazy beliefs of these silly New England communities, in their words, and thinking that vampires were at large. They stirred up a lot of the folklore and the horror around the tale. Just afterwards, of course, Dracula was published, so it was the perfect story to run with. Actually, in 1896, New York World wrote an article about Mercy Brown, and that article was found in Bram Stoker's papers. So many people feel that Mercy Brown may have been an inspiration for Lucy.
Sure, he would have taken... Yeah, absolutely.
Arguably another period of mass hysteria in history where people needed to blame someone or something otherworldly for the misfortunes that befell them and their loved ones. And instead of chasing people out of town for ruining your crops, they could simply accuse the dead of haunting you to death and sucking out your blood. That is the story of the New England vampire panic.
Very good indeed.
Yeah, and Mercy Brown.
Love a bit of vampire.
Yeah, we do.
Love a vampire. Can't go wrong.
There's lots of oldie worldy stories about vampires.
It's nice to hear some, I'm not saying modern, but sort of relatively, as vampire stories go, sort of relatively modernish.
I mean, as I said, it's not a crime.
No.
But the graves were dug up.
That's unpleasant.
And yeah, a lot of people who claim to be vampires or people are labelled vampires are not very pleasant stories to cover.
Yeah, no, indeed.
But yeah, it's again, the more you dig into it, the more you can pick it apart and go, this is fascinating. What happened in the 1800s in that area? Just the absolute belief.
Yeah,
these were spirits that were rising from their grave or from beyond the grave, sucking the lives out of people, and it became vampires. And it was because of the signs of blood in their body when they dug them up.
Very peculiar. But yeah, but you can imagine that sort of hysteria when you have no other explanation for it. You can't. You just don't know any different. It's not a choice between is it a vampire or is it science.
Yeah.
There is no science. It doesn't exist for those people.
And cholera, would have hit earlier at the same sort of time. Different symptoms.
Yeah.
So even if they'd heard about cholera, if they'd heard of different infectious diseases,
and also, but you're not going to know how you've got it. Even if you know it's cholera or you've heard of TB, it's still going to be some sort of it's been visited upon you.
Yes.
Because of something you've done. You've no idea how it's transmitted.
Yes.
Or anything like that. So, yeah, you've heard of a disease, but how have I got the disease? God's angry at me. And he's given it to me, type of thing. Or I've been punished for some reason.
And people kind of consign these stories to the medieval period as in like, oh my God, they're so stupid. And it's wrong to sort of say like, oh, the people at the time, oh, they're stupid, they're so ignorant. They just didn't have access to the information.
They just didn't have access to that knowledge.
No, and, with the benefit of hindsight. And even people in the big cities had no fucking idea what they were talking about. They were just kind of, as soon as something gave them, oh, yeah, we're way smarter than those people.
It was all brand new stuff, though.
Yeah.
There's all this sort of, how's disease spread and how's it transmitted. This is all cutting-edge sort of science at that point.
Inoculations as well.
Yeah, and
just
developing vaccines
happening.
And all that sort of stuff. Brand new stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, that's almost sort of verging on the science fiction type thing. So
yeah, and how's that going to be
rural
communicated?
That have no idea. Probably don't see a doctor once every 6 months or something, if that. If they're lucky.
Then the doctor's coming and going, leeches!
Exactly, and those doctors probably not the best quality sort of city
if the
doctors.
Victorian doctors have proven nothing else.
No.
And they're just like, oh, right, okay, well, we'll sew your leg up and give you cocaine.
Exactly, they're 200 years out of date, but they're the best thing they've got.
But imagine people rocking up at, like, the dry goods store, dry goods store and everything and saying, how would you even explain inoculation? Someone's going to stick a blade in you and put
a small amount of germs in you.
Well, that's all you'll hear. They said they're going to give you these germs. They're going to try and kill you with these germs, and everything. It's not far off from people think now. But how would you explain that, and how would people try to communicate how this disease works when you're particularly God-fearing? When you are you put your faith in the land, you put your faith in the Lord. It's terrifying.
And even if someone says it's spread through water or it's spread by touch or whatever.
You're the problem. But give someone who's already dead, they can be the problem.
They can be the problem.
And then this mix of the folklore that was coming over from Eastern Europe as well about vampires, what they believed, starting to permeate in to America through the press or even just from word of mouth again. And there would be a huge
number of these people are coming over from sort of Eastern Europe and things. Tales and things. They're all there.
And also all the
combined with hundreds of others from so many other different
also
cultures.
The indigenous people who were there like, we were here first, for God's sake. They're like, oh my God, this is a punishment. No, it can't be that. Well, there you go. What do you think, people? What do you think of the story of the New England vampire panic? What do you think of the process of finding the vampires? What do you think was going through people's minds? What do you think were the repercussions of all of this hysteria? Do you think it was hysteria? Do you think you have other ideas about what people may have been going through at this point? Tell us what you think. Jump on the comments of this episode. Share your thoughts, your theories, your feelings, but most importantly, you must mix up a succulent blood.
Succulent blood. It went down a treat.
It was delicious.
Absolutely. So the recipe will be out this evening. So do give it a go if you can. And I'm also intrigued to see or to hear what would you have a vampire count? what would you get them to count? I don't know if you could get them to do your taxes. I'm not sure if it's that sort of counting.
Yeah. There's like numbers, you just hold it up or something.
But yes, here, count all my Lego pieces.
Oh yeah, Lego pieces would be quite good. You just throw knitting needles down or something, or pins. You just have that.
Yeah.
Pins
will be a good one. And but no, you get vampire blood everywhere.
Oh, possibly. No, for me it'd be cat litter.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of cats. I'd be like, ugh. They'd be jumping over them, making vampires the whole time. Count how many virgin horses I have. None. Well, that's rude. Yes, send your suggestions in. Next week is our Halloween special. We have something very fun and cute and crazy planned. It'll be me again, by the way.
Yes.
But if you have more suggestions or things that you'd like to hear for Halloween, do message us, drop us a line. Please follow us on all the social media channels that you are on. We are predominantly on Instagram and TikTok, and also give us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. It makes a huge difference to us and to any podcast that you enjoy. And find us on Patreon. Thanks for listening, guys. We have been the people inside the Poisoner's Cabinet. We will see you next week. And remember, your loved ones are trying to kill you.
Bye.